Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to walk you through a rear brake service, and I'm working on a 15 Super Duty single rear wheel. I'm going to show you how I do it, and in this household it's my way or the highway, or at least that's what the X says. So we're going to start by seeing if this bleeder will actually crack loose, which it did. If it breaks off, then no sense going any further on the caliper. Just order up another caliper. But this one broke free and fluid came out the bleeder. So we'll go ahead and remove this caliper. These are 16 millimeter bolts. Pry up on the caliper a little bit. And then I'm going to stick a screwdriver between the rotor and each piston to see if they will push back, see if they are freed up, which they are. Because if they don't move, then there's another reason to just get another caliper. So go ahead and hang this off the leaf spring. Get this anchor bracket off. Sometimes these bolts are really tough to get out. They'll have a ton of thread lock on them. These weren't that bad. And there's a lot of rust on this one. This one's a Canadian truck, and I think it might be a dealer trade. And of course the rotor is going to be stuck on, so we're going to give it a bunch of love taps here with a 6-pound sledge. Just kind of roll it forward, beat on it some more, roll it forward, beat on it some more. Boom, it finally popped loose. And the first thing I do is inspect the parking brake shoes. Look at all this rust. This is by far not the worst one I've seen, but there's quite a bit of rust on this one. I'm going to clean up the caliper, pistons, and the boots. I'd like to do that. Kind of give them a little scrub before we push the pistons back in. And inspect the boots. If there's a hole in a boot, replace the caliper. And since there's a little bit of rust build up on the pistons, I'm going to knock it off. I'm not going to get too crazy here. Just knock some of the rust off with some emery cloth. I'm going to install a new brake pad. I'm going to press these pistons back in. And this, when I do this, I'm also checking to see if either piston binds. I'm going to put a vacuum hose in the bleeder. And all the fluid's just going to drain out. The pistons are going back in. Real nice on this one. Fluid doesn't look half bad. Sometimes it'll be just black coming out. Tighten up the bleeder. And I like to tuck the boot in if it's sticking out. Just don't pop any holes in the boot. There's the part number on the front brake or the rear brake pads. And there's the part number on the rotor. And this is a 15 F250 single rear wheel. I'm going to go ahead and knock some of the dust off the hub, the shoes, the ABS tone ring. and the ABS sensor. Wipe it down, and then I like to spray penetrant on the parking brake mechanism. And we'll slip the new rotor on. Then I'm going to adjust the parking brake shoes up till the rotor just barely slips on. So you're going to adjust the shoes out. Stick the rotor back on. Just barely slips on there. It's some pretty heavy drag. And then I'm going to go ahead and back the adjuster back off. Usually about 4 clicks. And this one took 17 clicks. It really didn't have a parking brake. The parking brake pedal pretty much went all the way to the floor. Okay, we'll take the pads and the hardware out of the anchor brackets. And it's tough to get into a wire wheel, so I take my Dremel. I'm going to knock all this rust out of it. When you get so much rust on these anchor brackets, it will push up on the hardware and it will sandwich the brake pads in there. It'll bind the brake pads in the anchor bracket, and then you'll get funny wear, or one of the brake pads will wear out faster than the other. So it's really critical to knock the rust off these. If the pins don't move freely, or the boots are ruptured on the anchor brackets, then just get new anchor brackets. These weren't quite that bad, so we're just going to clean them up. Put some new pad clips on. Now there won't be any rust under them. And I put Seal Glide. Rub that around with an acid brush. And of course, I'm only showing one side here. Both sides are the same. So you just repeat the same steps on this side, on the other side. Okay, we'll stick the anchor bracket back on. Torque the bolts down. I like to do them by hand. Put the new brake pads in. And on the back, or at least on these, there's not an inside and an outside. You can put, all 4 pads are the same. Reinstall the caliper. And you can see I'm doing this brake job. I kind of like to do it about head height or just slightly higher. This one's up a little higher than normal because there's this big nasty mud flap right above my head. And to put my head in front of the mud flap, then that means my eyes are like 2 inches away from the brake caliper. Okay, we're going to tighten the caliper bolts down. And then, once you got everything done, pump up the brake pedal. And go back, crack open the bleeder. I'm going to see if any air is trapped in the system. There's no air in this one. So I'm going to snug it up, tighten it up, put the cap back on it, and this one is good to go. Of course, got to put the tire on it and go burnish the brakes. But thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you in the next video.